My hair looks a little crazy this morning. I've been rushing around fixing things. Good morning, everybody. Happy spring. My name is Abby Hagyard, and have I done everything? I think so. All right. My name is Abby Hagyard. Welcome to my tiny corner of the world. My alter ego from television a million years ago. Mom is there. My Care Bears are here. My coffee is here. My phone is here. And you are here. What more could we ask for on this beautiful, beautiful day where I am in my tiny corner of the world? So I want to begin by saying, I was going to say incredible, unbelievable, incredible, all the new people who are checking out these videos. I thank you so much for your curiosity. I thank you for saying, what is that? What is that over there? Who is that over there? And deciding to say, you know what, I got a minute. I think I'll check it out. I want to thank you for that, because this is how great things begin. Great things begin because we say, maybe we should look at that. Maybe we need to look at that. And then when we do, ta-da, miracles happen. So today, being Thursday, which I often refer to as Thor's Day because I have Viking ancestors, is also the first day of spring. And fortuitously, it is also the first day of the season, not of the witch, the season of Aries. Now, if you're not into horoscopes, and I'm not really into horoscopes in a serious way. However, if you are into looking at the signs of the zodiac, what we see is that Aries is the first month of the new year of beginnings. Aries is the baby. Aries is the adorable one. Aries is the one who says, but why, Daddy? My father used to say that they had named me incorrectly. They should have called me Why. So the reason I'm here, for those of you who haven't been with me before or are just kind of sorting it out and figuring it out, is that back, I guess it was in 2020 when I realized that there was a serious condition going on in the world and that many people were not equipped to handle it. Many people were not given the instruction book. When I first got into business, show business, I was doing stand-up, and I talked about the fact that for the longest time, as a military kid, I thought that everybody else got a copy of the book. You know, how to be, how to live, how to not look like an idiot, coming and going. And I was quite convinced that there was a book because everybody else appeared to know what they were doing. And I knew I didn't get the book, but I didn't think it was a conspiracy. I just thought that because we moved so much, it was just stuck in some 4 or 5 posts ago mail room somewhere, and I would get it eventually. What I realized in time, and I would talk about this in the stand-up routine, I realized something very interesting, and that is, do you know how every so often somebody you don't really know that well necessarily, they go out of their way to be just awful to you? You know, like they steal your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your parking lot or your job or goodness knows what. Well, I think what's happened there is that they think they didn't get the book. They think that we did. Not only that our copy was autographed, and they just can't stand it. So when I had gone through that kind of recognition and realization, I also decided that, there's 2 ways to show up. You can show up walking around like your tie is got in your zipper and just ruin the event for everybody by moaning and groaning, not even kvetching and snarping, just, oh, hi. Oh, thanks. I don't know. I just threw this on. Thanks. And how are you? You know that person? Yeah. So here, boot. My feeling is that if you can't show up, don't show up. If you can't be part of the energy moving things forward, if you can't find your seat in the boat, sit down and pay attention to how we're rowing. Don't get in the boat. The boat does not need extra drag. We weigh everybody's luggage, much the way they do in the airlines now, and in our Viking ships. We say, sorry, no, you can't bring all the snakes. I don't care which part of Ireland you're from. No, they're heavy. We have a weight limit. It's what can fit under your seat. There is no, yes, by the way, up there is where the birds fly free. So, and as a very, very wise Norse friend of mine once said, when I was bemoaning the dead weight I had, he said, the Vikings had to qualify to get in the boats, right, Ab? Like you are doing that, right? You are pre-qualifying them. And I said, well, anybody could do it that way. Because no, I had assumed that if they showed up, they meant it. I don't know. My longtime friend, Barbara Munshaw, I said to her once, for the longest time, I believed that if people don't show up, they're just having a bad day. I practically had to revive her. I thought she was going to choke to death. She laughed so hard. And she said, how could you still be here and still be this naive? I don't know. So with all of that said, what I think it's time to do, so you know where I'm from. I'm a military kid. I was on television. I landed sideways, backwards, flopping over, forwards in a couple of shows, and that led to the big show, the big break that went viral globally, and now it's on YouTube until the end of time. So I get to look like that in that outfit, which, by the way, I picked out, I went shopping for. I know. And I didn't know it was going to go global. I thought it was just going to look stupid on a back street somewhere. No. So in the wake of understanding that you've landed on a Facebook event that is being simulcast to YouTube and Twitch through the good offices of the Restream people, I'm really here to talk about life strategies. My consulting business is called Now What Strategies. Not what now what. Significant difference. What now is what you say when the phone rings for the 47th time and the child has just thrown up on your shoe. You say, what now? Now what is when you've been waiting for the phone call that's going to change your life. The phone has not rung. You pick up your phone, you look at it, and the battery is fine. You place a call, it goes through. It's not your phone. And you realize that everything has hinged on something that is not in this moment happening. And you say, now what? Because you're out of ideas. You thought this was all you needed. Quelle surprise, apparently not. And the now what strategic moment is when people realize they had put not only all the eggs, but the chicken coop and the chicken feed in the one basket. And they've literally run out of ideas. They've hit a wall, fallen down, and they can't get up. When I come along with a now what strategy, what I'm doing is I'm going back to the place, the last place God made. I'm going back to the place where everything seemed to be okay. Excuse me just a second. Seems to be okay. I take them back to where do you think you left your car keys? When was the last time you used your car keys? I don't know. All right, don't worry about it. And I walk them through a process that I've created. And along the way in the conversating about the process and about the solution model and about the number of times it's worked, what I'm gradually doing is helping them shift their mindset of fear and loathing and loss and confusion and desperation. Good morning, Freddie. I'm shifting them away from what they feel in a bleak moment is fear because we've hit a dead end. And in a primal way, going all the way back to our ancient subconscious survival brain, if we don't have a solution, the tribe could kick us out of the cave. Outside the cave is where the saber-toothed whatnots live. Failure is not an option. Actually, it is. Unfortunately, it's step one of a two-step, the other step being death. The survival brain doesn't have a lot of optimism. What it has is a lot of freeze, hide, fight, flee, comply in order to create basic survival. That's its job. It's been its job forever since the beginning of we walked out of the water into the ooze and onto land. It's not changed. It still thinks we're there in one tribe. It's pre-verbal. It doesn't understand any of the signs and signals. It understands emotion. It understands instinct. It understands we don't got gray areas here. And when we reach that place, it's very difficult to reason with people because they're in sheer panic. They're in blind running. And a lot of times when you see situations in which there's a lot of fanfare and a lot of hoopla and a lot of negative screaming media, it always reminds me of a clever fellow one time who said, you know, when you watch a magician, 100,000% of the time, where the pretty girl is stroking the fridge over there is not where the trick is taking place. The prettier the girl, the bigger the fridge, the louder the noise, is not where the trick is taking place. It's not where disaster is emerging. It is not where triumph is borning. It's where we want you to look so you don't see it coming. So these are not things that the subconscious brain actually processes well. It's mostly on the dead run or the stop, hide, don't blink. Maybe they won't see or hear or smell me. And we are smarter than that, we hope. We are more complex than that, we hope. And so my task, my job as a consultant for people in their corners of life and their crossroads of life is to say, all right, this is where to start before we start. My Now What strategies are a GPS, a grounding, positioning, success strategy, tailored for you. And I've been doing it a long time. I use it in the boutique publishing service I provide. I mentor a lot of authors. I mentor people who are trying to rewrite their brand, rethink why they came. What I'm also doing now, and have since 2020 been building, is I'm serving as the opening act in conversations with people who have serious shifts to make. I come in and talk about our gift, our ability to change our perspective, to bring out different coping mechanisms that we've had since we were born. We don't really know that we have them because we just do them spontaneously. They're developed partly as a result of the way we learn everything. We learn by mirroring. We watch somebody do it, we copy it, we keep practicing it till we get it right, and then we keep practicing to get it right for us. And all of our behavioral mechanisms that are not, excuse me, clearing throat, swallowing, blinking, sleeping, all these learned behaviors are all mirrored behaviors. So we have kabillions of them. By the time we're 5, we have kabillions of them. And we spontaneously draw on these qualities we have, these attitudes we have, our presentation skills, our swagger, to deal in situations all the time. Good ones, bad ones, indeterminate ones. You know, if somebody says, I got a new puppy, and they hold out their hand and there's a full entire dog in the palm of their hand. It's a doglet, really. It's not a dog yet. And you say, oh, look at the dog. No, you don't. You say, oh, look at the puppy. We smallen ourselves down. We shrinken ourselves down in our energy and our impact and our affect to match what feels like a magnet of energy, this adorable tiny creature. We are drawn to mirror that energy so as not to scare, so as not to terrorize. How did we learn to do that? Where did that come from? We don't even consciously think it, do we? Same day, oh my God, I'll be back. gosh, your dog is a doorbell. Be back. Just realized garbage truck. And we grab the garbage and we run outside because the reason we're running is that the individual, I was about to say something rude, the individual driving the truck waits for no man or woman or any other slot you care to call yourself. If you're not there, if it's not there, it's gone in the wind. So there you are running hell-bent for election behind the garbage truck. And what you're calling out to the garbage truck driver is not in the tone and the energy and the attitude that you moments ago used with the doglet. You have adopted something entirely different, haven't you? I know, you're laughing, you're shaking your head. How do I know? No, I wasn't behind a bush watching you. I do it too. Now, let's fast forward to 2 hours later. You're almost but not quite late for work. You get in, skidding in around the corners. That's your hand on the door to your little cubby, and you hear this voice saying, "Need to see you in my office." And you freeze. Be right there. And you drop your stuff and you straighten everything and you go in because please don't fire me. Please don't fire me today. And you walk in, and to your everlasting surprise, the boss says, "You know, we had a meeting with the board. We like what you're doing, and we want to encourage what you're doing. So we're going to give you a raise, and not just any raise. We're going to give you a raise that is significant and a promotion to go with it. What do you think of that?" Do you know what you don't do right then in that moment? You don't channel the doglet or the garbage truck driver. Nope. You come up with another you like that, don't you? How'd you do that? Fridge is way over there. How did you do it? What are you doing? That is our fascinating little gift, our superpower, our incredible, crazy, magical skill. The ability to pivot, to anticipate or respond to an external cannot happen, never happens ever before until we shift the way we're thinking, the way we're feeling, and how we're planning to address the moment. This mental shift, this mind shift is more than a pivot. It's a strategic move in attitude, in comprehension, in accessibility, and action. And it's called Pivotry. Poetry for poets, Pivotry for the now what strategist among us who know how to find the right path and seize it. I've known how to do this since I was 5 because, by the way, did I mention military? I've known how to do this consistently since the age of 5 because after my childhood, in which we moved about every 15 minutes, I decided to go into show business because it was the most similar thing I could find. You know what shifts every 15 minutes in show business? Who it is they're willing to pay you to be in order to complete the roster of the show. Build yourself into the cast, become the character. Walk out on the stage to the joy and delight of the people sitting in the hard chairs facing the front. Nobody buys the ticket. Nobody gets off the couch, puts on pants, gets in the car, drives downtown, finds parking, goes in, buys the ticket, sits on the hard chair facing the front to hear about your day. I can guarantee that. They've had enough with theirs. They have come to be swept up and swept away. Guaranteed. How do we shift from our instinct to carry our life around with us? I got a simple win. How do we address the fact? Changing tones, yes, to fit. the moment. Yes. Changing moods and attitudes and the clothing and the tools. If there's a leaky faucet under the sink, you probably don't need a ladder. Just saying. Pivotry is a skill set. It is how we learn to adapt, adopt, and apply the qualities we have learned through mirroring to not only meet the moment, to not only match the challenge, but leverage it. You picture a tsunami wave. You can picture the villagers running in fear. You can picture the people who didn't see it coming, all of a sudden realizing that it's too late to run. Can you also picture someone in a boat who was far enough out, felt the shift, and decided to start rowing, not to get ahead of the wave, not to outpace the wave, but to get in step with the wave and ride the crest, leverage the power of the change, and ride the crest to success. We can do that. That's pivotry in motion. And that's what I teach. It's what I've taught to actors. It's what I teach to authors. It's what I teach to people trying to define a brand. It's what I teach to people who are dealing with the public, who are at home. There's a very large component of the population right now. It's the sandwich generation. It's the Oreo generation. It is the parent who is looking after their parent and their child, and they barely have time for a life of their own. I help them with that. When I landed, the irony, when the irony that made me laugh every time it happened, when I landed the characters on You Can't Do That on Television, and I joined the cast in 1982, they had created within the show a really clever little bit of shtick called The Opposites. And if you're not familiar with the show because you're too young or you just didn't watch it, it was a television series predicated on the idea that kids could probably run their own television network if we just gave one to them, because they're not encumbered by a lot of things that adults decide are essential. And the kids on this show are therefore doing double duty. They're talking about the inequities of being too small and too new to the game to be able to actually run anything. So they have to let the adults run things. And then they role play their own characters in domestic and school and drop off after school, sports and camping and the local burgery and the library, how they cope with the adults in their lives. And it's a really fun show. Well, part and parcel of that is something they call the opposites. And the opposites, is when we flip the script and wrong is right. And mom says you're not wearing enough makeup. And why are you coming home from the mall so early? And dad says, of course you can borrow the car. Don't worry about the gas. I already filled it for you, son. Those things don't happen, except they did in the opposites. And so when the kids would be sitting around the central conversation cub called the link set, and they would be all of a sudden having these crazy conversations, they would say, what are we doing? Like, have we lost our minds? Or is this just the introduction to the opposites? And it became legend, and kids loved it, because it was the first time, I think, in the history of writing for any kind of medium that anybody thought to write satire to 10 and 12 and 13-year-olds. Winning formula. So all that said, to give you context, Pivotry in motion, the way I teach it, is me serving as your introduction to your opposites. I am the introduction to your opposites. I bring you Pivotry in motion. I bring you the understanding. I demonstrate the skill. I make you laugh because it's fun and it's funny. And by the way, I have this whole tendency to do that. And I give you the opportunity to stop feeling that the world is against you. I nudge you closer to a window so that you have no reason not to say, what's that? Because curiosity is the beginning of everything. And we need that now. We need that now on this first day of spring. We need that now on this first day of Aries. We need that now in 2025 in more ways than we have needed it for a very long time. We can talk to death and make ourselves numb. We can saddle up and take aim. Before we do that, either one, we have to remember why we came. We don't have to be heroes. We don't have to be warriors. We don't have to be carving a path, slicing the granite, cutting the tree to build the boat. We don't have to be that person. We can be the person who's keen, who cares, who finds the strength, finds the energy, finds the enthusiasm, finds the curiosity to say, can I help? Because it takes many, many tongues and grooves, many, many hammers and staves, many, many saws and nails to build a campaign, to build a strategy, to build a ship we all climb in. Test the wind, raise the sails. We have to be able, willing, and ready. And how do we do that? We change the game from the inside out. We pivot. We say to ourselves, I can do that. I've got this simple win girl over here. And I can reach out to her and say, now what? And we'll both laugh. And we can get down to it. Many years ago, I was invited to talk to the owner of a fairly sizable company in Ottawa, who was looking for a different brand concept and a different website presentation, and he didn't like any of the outcomes. And somebody he knew said, you need to talk to Abby. And he said, she's an actress. Why would I talk to her? I've seen her show. She's very good. Why would I talk to her? Person said, you kind of want to talk to her. So our initial conversation was me sitting in front of him smiling and him sitting there smiling with his arms folded. Story of my life, really. And I said, so I did a little background on him. And I have a question. On all your materials everywhere, you have the company name and it says since a particular year. He said, that's right. And I said, what does that mean exactly? And he spoke down to me from a great height. His desk was too big to reach over and pat me on the head, but by golly, you could see he wanted to. Well, the name of the company is because that's the founder. And the name of the year, the number of the year is because that's when it was founded. And I said, yeah. It says it's a family-owned business? Yeah. Okay. The name of the company and the name of the founder, that's not your name. So was it on your mother's side? And he said, no. He said, my great-grandfather worked for the owner. And when the owner retired, my great-grandfather bought it. And I said, I see. So what it actually says on everything has nothing to do with you or your family. Your company, as you run it, as you have run it from the time that your great-grandfather said, here's $11.45, and the owner said, here you go. When was that? He said, that's the year. And I said, oh, I see. Well, when did the owner start it? He said, oh my God, well. And the number he gave me was significantly earlier. And I said, all right, well, here we go. Here's how this works. Either it's that name and their year, or it's your name and your year. But you've got their name and your year, and that doesn't make any sense. And it's undermining the power. Because if you want to call it that name, why do you want to call it that name? Because of the quality and the standard and the reputation. Fine. So if it's that name, your number's wrong. And I think that's the first thing we want to talk about. I think that's your now what strategy before you decide whether you want to hire me to rebrand you. Probably be good to know what it is you're rebranding. No? And he just stared at me. And he didn't look away. He picked up his thing and said, punched a button and said, come in here. Got a minute? And in walked an older version of him. He said, this is my dad. Dad, this is Abby. Have a seat, Dad. Abby's going to tell you something. And then he said to me, just tell me what you told me right now. So I did. And Dad said, she knows our business better than we do. Hire her. Because we can get stuck in a rut. And now I'm going to get kind of serious here. We can get stuck in a rut believing that the way it was is the way it works now. My family has always done this. Really? Wow. How? So when did they, this is a different family example. Really? When did they? Oh my gosh. Well, we started our company in the 1920s. Wow. Yeah. 1920s. Wow. It's amazing. So you survived the Depression. Yeah. 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 2 wars. Yeah. What about the internet? What about it? That's almost a bigger life-changing thing than the 2 wars, wouldn't you say? Oh, yeah. Have you done everything exactly the same since the internet? Or have you changed a lot of your strategies and techniques and tools? Well, no, I mean, we weave this and weave that and weave the other. So you haven't been doing it nonstop exactly the same since 1920. You made a big shift with the internet. The origin story is incorrect. It's not helping you. It's holding you back. You're resisting change because you haven't, your mindset hasn't changed, but everything else around you has changed. Blink. Oh yeah. I'm not smarter. I'm just standing way back over here. I'm doing the 5 steps back, bigger picture, saying, well, that doesn't look, have you seen you from the back? Do you have a 360 mirror? You might want to get one. Because from that angle. So what is it that I do? Well, I sit down with people and they tell me what they do. And I know that the reason they tell me it the way they tell me it is because we can only see the world through our point of view, through our filter, through our eyes. Even if you and I were identical twins, one of us was born a split second earlier, which means that we're a split second off from the other point of view. A split second. That's how horse races are won and lost. That's how Olympic gold medals are won and lost. We can't see the world through another man's or woman's or person's or creature's eyes. We can only see through ours. Unless we step back and say, Oh, that looks different, doesn't it? And the minute we realize it can look different, we realize that possibly they are seeing something different. So right now, today, we're dealing with something fairly large on a global scale. And what is alarming is not the large thing. What is alarming is our status quoistry. I have no idea if that's a word. Status quoistry? Maybe I should write that down. Would you excuse me for just a moment? We can't rely solely on our status quoistry. As Sundance and Butch discovered in their film, you can take a knife to a gunfight. You might want to use other technology. You might want to rethink what you're seeing. You may want to stop looking at the pretty girl in the fridge and take a closer look at the magicians. And then take a look at ourselves. What tools are we using? What mindset are we bringing? What reluctance are we wearing that prevents us from seeing? A, that we need new strategies to address new challenges. B, there is a great deal to be said for cresting a tsunami wave, and that means timing. And the more exhausting and terrifying it is, the greater our need for a feeling of safety and sanctuary. To change the phrase from Jaws, we're going to need a lot more service dogs. We're going to need a lot more dogs. We're going to need a lot more avenues to help our heroes stay strong. We're going to need a lot more togetherness, a lot more attention to the long game. We're going to need a much smarter, fresh, powerful now what strategy. The time for sniping and snarking and whataboutism is over. How do we make that transition? How do we make that shift? Well, we could start with somebody like me who comes in representing resilience in the introduction to your opposites. We could do worse. So on this first day of spring, I promised you that I would have a hack. And for those of you who are new with me, this is going to be exciting. And for those of you who have been with me over time, you're going to smile when I explain why this is a Viking strategy, why this is the simple win, why this is how we deal with new, fresh, alarming, exciting beginnings. This is this little booklet, which is, by the way, conveniently the same size as your phone. So don't tell me you have no place to put it, is what I call the later folder. And how it works is this. The outcome of using the later folder strategy as your now what strategy is that it allows you to draw a line in the sand between you and your carried stress, I did some math yesterday with someone who had who'd never experienced my kinds of logic. And I said, if you have how many tabs, if you're on your computer, how many tabs do you have open on your computer? More than 3? I said to her, she said 12. And I almost choked to death on my coffee. Excuse me. I said, all right, that's going to be an interesting conversation. All right. If you have one tab open, here's your tab, one tab. You're giving it 100% of your concentration, correct? Yeah. Okay. If you have 2 tabs open and while you're working on this one, you can see the other tab right there. Are you still giving 100% to this one? Or is part of your attention drifting up to that other tab? No, because I know I have to get to it. All right. So let's say if you have 100% here, you now have to give away some of that 100% because you're thinking about that. So let's say this is now 80% and you've got 20%. Let's say 90% and that's 10%. That could be exciting. This could be drudgery. So this could be 60% and that could be 40%. We don't know. All right, let's look at the next tab. And she said, I think I see where this is going. And I said, do you? Okay. So if you have bare minimum interest, awareness, focus on 12 tabs, let's say you have 10%. You don't have 90% on this anymore. If you have 10% on each of those 11, that's 110%. You're in a deficit here. You have to go to the bank and borrow some attention for this. If you shut these down and you only have the 2, really essential, okay, so 20%, 20%, that's 40%. You got 60 here. Was this important? You're doing this first, so is this important? Did this matter? Then why are you only giving it 60%? When you were in college, when you were in high school, and you got a 60% grade, you were a long game away from a 4.0. So why are we confused that things aren't going well? Why on earth are we bragging? Yes, I'm a queen of multitasking. That's like saying, I'm very proud of the fact that I'm not paying attention. My definition of multitasking is doing many things badly. What I should say is inefficiently, although badly is funnier. So the later folder is this. You get the folder, it's got lines in it. You get the folder, you get a weapon of mass construction, and you get up in the morning. So I'm going to do a girly thing. Get up in the morning, you're getting beautifuler than you were when you woke up, and you're putting a line here, and the little pencil breaks, and you say something relevant. And then you have to tidy that up. You have to sharpen it because you still need to use it. So the time it takes to find the sharpener, and now you stepped in it, and there's a smear of whatever color that was under your shoe, under your slipper. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, you have to keep going because now you're a couple of minutes late. And every next thing you do, you're more stressed because you're carrying that few minutes and you're carrying that stress. Hang on a second here. What is going on here? I don't understand that. No, it doesn't seem to be doing it. Sorry about that. There was a distraction. What I am able to do is not care. I am able to shut that door. This is years of training. Shut that door. I'm not multitasking. That's not happening now. I'm with you now. That's a learned skill. I teach it. For the later folder, and I'll show you how. For the later folder, you write down eyeliner pencil or eyebrow pencil and any other thing that got in the way, kind of as a ripple effect, right? And so now you're all ready to go. You draw a line under that list of stuff. You put it in your bag, your pocket, whatever, with your phone. And you go to your mode of transportation, right? You head off. When you get to your destination, before you leave this set of actions, before you go into the building, you write down anything else that has upset you separately from the pencil during the transition, during the commute. You write down anything that was annoying. The small child with a sucker aiming for your hair. The guy open mouth chewing bubble gum. The person having a loud argument on the phone. Write those down. Draw a line under them. Cut it off. Cut it off. Cut it off. Cut it off. What am I doing with each of those? I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm doing with you in my description what we all do strategically when we leave the puppy and the garbage truck driver and we're standing in front of our boss who has just offered us a promotion and a raise. We focus 100% because we leave that behind. We will deal with it later, at the end of the day. Curiously, at the end of the day, when we look at the list of things that made us crazy, most of them are just stuff. One might still trigger us. That's important to know. I'd circle it. Not now, not tonight. We're not going to deal with it tonight. Tonight we're getting ready for bed. But what we're looking at is we're looking at all the things that our body, our mind, our hearts, our souls, our energies, our whatever have successfully processed because we didn't allow them to become exponential. We didn't allow them to infect every next new thing. We put a line under it and said, later. Now, I learned this skill when I first became an actor, a performer, a professional. And when I learned it and I saw its value, because the audience is not paying all that time and sweat equity and money to watch me kvetch about my day, I taught it to every single person I have coached since then, which was shortly after 1492. And it works. Because what it does is it clears the slate. It clears the deck. It gives us back our 100%. It gives us not only readiness, it makes us willing and able to bring everything to bear. Now, strategically, for a now what scenario, like the one we're in, after the hellos and ha-has and the fun and the laughter and the observations about life itself, and oh my gosh, can you do that bit again? We're going to talk about the origin story we're living by. And we're going to pick up the later folder. And we're going to write down the primary things we are using our status quo instinct to keep in place when they have outlived their time and their usefulness. And we will say, oh yeah, yeah, why am I hanging on to that? Because it's difficult to break a habit unless you have a fresh, shiny, new habit to replace it with. Pivotry in motion. Abby Haggard. Now what strategies? It's the month of the Vikings, my lovely. It is the month of Aries, the first month of the year in terms of new beginnings. It is the first day of all of this. And synchronistically, today is a Thursday, a Thor's day, no less. And I'm inviting you to join me in my boat. It'll be a qualifying round, of course. My boat is called Resilience. And there is a window or an aisle seat for every one of you. All you need to bring is your readiness, your willingness, and your ability to embrace curiosity. We can take care of the rest together. Brace for Aries. Should be a given, no? If you walk with me There's no bracing required. I'll show you the steps. We can glide. Is that a fair deal? I hope so. So between now and next week, the game is afoot. There's many things happening that are exciting and challenging and inspiring. And what I would ask of each of you to do is take a moment every morning and think of one thing that feels good about you, your life, your opportunity. Just one. Just think about that one thing that you have. There will be many, but think of one. One that makes you smile. And then what I want you to do is that I want you to, as you are thinking about that one thing, I want you to say, how you doing? Make a friend. Make a friend of this one thing that means so much. Hold on to that friendship. We will always have room for that friend in the boat. Guaranteed. Okay. So much is happening. So much is going to unfold. It's very exciting. It's very challenging. And if you need fresh insights, you know where to find me. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for taking care of you today. Thank you for realizing that there are no free rides. Thank you for recognizing that we can't take until we give. And it should be an equal measure. Tell your friends if this was exciting and interesting and enlightening. Tell your colleagues. I'm in it for the long game. And I can't wait to find out if you feel the same. Thank you so much for watching.